People always said billionaires spoke like their words weighed gold. But the moment he muttered those Arabic insults under his breath, thinking the waitress couldn't understand a single syllable, she turned her head, looked him dead in the eyes, and his entire world stopped. It all began on the busiest night of the week. The restaurant buzzed with noise, clattering plates, hurried footsteps, impatient customers. Lights were warm, tables full, and Mia, the quiet, soft-faced waitress with tied-back hair and tired shoes, moved between tables like someone trying to keep the world from falling apart plate by plate. She didn't talk much, didn't complain, didn't snap back at rude customers. But she heard everything, especially the insults people muttered when they thought she wouldn't understand. And tonight, she heard the worst ones yet. At table 7 sat a man whose presence made the entire room shift. Sleek black suit, expensive watch, a phone that never stopped lighting up. He was famous in the business world. Khalid Al-Sayed, youngest billionaire in his region. Sharp, loud, confident, the type who conquered boardrooms, not conversations. He wasn't from here, but money made him belong anywhere. Or so he thought. Tonight, he was annoyed. The food took too long. The music was too loud. The chair wasn't comfortable enough. And Mia was the unlucky one assigned to serve him. She approached calmly, setting down the plate with a soft smile. "Your orders, sir." Khalid didn't smile back. He didn't even look at her. Instead, he leaned back in his chair and muttered something under his breath in Arabic, quiet enough for most people to miss, sharp enough to cut through Mia's heart. "Amma hadihi al-fatat la tafham shan." This girl doesn't understand anything. Then under his breath, sharper. "Kidmasteye." Useless service. His assistant beside him widened his eyes. "Sir." But Khalid waved a dismissive hand and continued in Arabic. Comfortable, careless, confident no one around him knew the language. "La kana ladeha dimak, la amilat fi." If she had a brain, she wouldn't be working in a restaurant. The assistant whispered urgently. "She might hear." "She doesn't understand," Khalid said. "Look at her. She's nothing." Mia stood frozen for a second. Not because she was hurt. She was used to people underestimating her. But because the man didn't know who he was insulting. She walked away quietly, but her mind was spinning. None of them knew she had lived in Jordan for 10 years. None of them knew Arabic was her second language. None of them knew the girl they took for granted understood every cruel word. Minutes passed. Khalid continued talking in Arabic, now complaining about the food, the country, the service, everything. He didn't lower his voice anymore. Arrogance made him careless. The assistant looked increasingly uncomfortable. Finally, Mia returned with a fresh pot of tea, the one he requested earlier. She placed it gently on the table. "Here you go, sir." Khalid didn't thank her. He said in Arabic, "Atini al-shay wa grubi, Annie." "Give me the tea and get lost." That was the moment Mia decided something. Not revenge, not anger, just truth. She leaned slightly toward him, polite, calm, and in fluent, flawless Arabic said, "Hal turaduni, and a grub cable and tatakalam by Itram? Would you like me to leave before or after you decide to speak respectfully?" The assistant choked on his drink. A couple at the next table turned their heads. Khalid's entire body stiffened. His eyes shot up slowly, disbelief spreading across his face like someone had pulled the earth from under him. Mia continued, still calm, still soft. "Wali al-malyamat, la yakin al-dash, fatat sadiye. Antaf fakat lam, tas al-biluf." And for your information, the girl is not useless. You simply didn't ask nicely. Khalid stared at her, speechless, stunned, humiliated, frozen. Mia straightened, offered a gentle smile, and added in English this time, "Is there anything else you need, sir?" He opened his mouth. No words came out. Because for the first time in years, Khalid Al-Sayed, a man who commanded entire companies, couldn't command a single sentence. His assistant whispered, amazed, She speaks Arabic better than you, sir." Khalid blinked slowly, disbelief softening into something new, curiosity. But Mia just walked away quietly, as if she hadn't just shaken his entire world. Khalid watched her go, heart pounding, face warm, not from embarrassment alone, but from something he couldn't name yet, because he had insulted her, and she had answered not with anger, but with grace. And now, he couldn't stop watching her. For the first time all night, Khalid wasn't checking his phone, wasn't rushing his assistant, wasn't complaining. He was staring at the waitress. The girl he had insulted. The girl who spoke his language more beautifully than anyone back home. The girl who calmly handed him his arrogance like a mirror. And something inside him, something he didn't show in boardrooms or billion-dollar meetings, twisted in his chest. Shame. And something else, something softer. Mia moved between tables, quiet and focused, her steps light, her posture steady. She didn't look at him again. Not once. As if he wasn't worth a second of her time. For a man like Khalid, that was new. Sir, his assistant whispered nervously. Are you all right? Khalid didn't answer. He watched Mia refill a couple's glasses, smile politely at a child, straighten a napkin on an empty table. Her movements were normal, but something about her felt different now. Not invisible, not small, just strong. He hated that he hadn't seen it before. The assistant took a cautious breath. Sir, you spoke very harshly. I know, Khalid muttered, jaw clenching. And she understood everything. I know. You called her. I know. Khalid snapped softly, rubbing his forehead. He had insulted women before. Business rivals. Employees. People he knew would never dare talk back. But Mia? She didn't fight him. She didn't shout. She didn't cry. She stood her ground with the calm of someone who had survived worse. He wasn't angry at her. He was angry at himself. Mia walked to the counter, grabbing a tray of drinks for table 9. Her hands didn't shake. Her face didn't break. She had learned long ago that people who underestimate you don't deserve your energy. But her heart? It beat a little faster. Because she hadn't planned to expose herself. She hadn't wanted to embarrass him. But his words, they cut through the air like they were meant to leave wounds. And she was tired of swallowing insults just because people assumed she didn't understand. She whispered softly to herself, just finish the shift, Mia. Don't think about him. But she did think. His expression kept replaying in her mind. The shock, the guilt, the crack in his arrogance. It wasn't satisfaction she felt. It was curiosity she didn't want. When she returned to table 7 with water refills, Khalid straightened instantly, like someone had pulled him into proper posture. Mia, he said quietly. She paused. He said her name like it mattered, like he practiced it in his head before speaking. Yes, sir, she replied calmly. He swallowed. Could you sit? Just for a moment. I'm working, she said simply. I'll pay for the time. She raised an eyebrow. I don't sell my minutes, sir. His assistant nearly choked again. Khalid's lips twitched, not in anger, but in the ghost of a smile. Fair enough, he said. Then at least let me say. She cut him off gently. Sir, it's a busy night. Your food is here. Please enjoy it. She placed the water and turned to leave. Not rude. Not cold. Just done. And that, somehow, hurt more than anything she could have said. Mia, he said again, softer this time. Please. The please made her stop. She turned, slow, careful, meeting his eyes with the same calm he couldn't read. Yes. Khalid cleared his throat, something uncomfortable sitting in his chest. I didn't know you understood Arabic, he said, voice lower. That's clear, she replied. A few customers glanced over. His assistant stared at the tablecloth. Khalid tried again. I shouldn't have spoken to you that way. You didn't speak to me, she corrected gently. You spoke about me. You thought I wouldn't hear you. Khalid felt something punch the air out of his lungs. She wasn't throwing knives. She was stating facts. I'm sorry, he said, a little awkward, a lot sincere. I was rude. Mia blinked at him, as if weighing his apology. She didn't give it to him easily. You were more than rude. Her voice was soft but firm. You assumed. And assumptions say more about the person speaking than the one being spoken about. Khalid swallowed hard. I deserve that, he admitted. She nodded once. Yes, but apology accepted. Her calmness disarmed him again. She turned to go, but something in him refused to let this moment end. Wait, he murmured. Can I ask how you learned Arabic so well? Mia hesitated, then said quietly, because for years, it was the only language I heard. Khalid froze. He sat back slowly, eyes widening. Where, he asked. She didn't answer in English. She answered in Arabic, soft, fluent, accented like someone who once belonged somewhere else. Ishtar to Fi al-Erdin Mud at Thaman Sanawayat. I lived in Jordan for 8 years. He stared at her, then whispered, stunned, You lived in my part of the world. Not your part, she corrected gently. My home for a long time. Something shifted in his chest, something he hadn't felt in years. Recognition. Connection. The kind that runs deeper than language. But Mia didn't stay long enough for him to understand it. She simply gave a polite nod and went back to work, leaving Khalid sitting there with a heart suddenly heavier than his wealth. He watched her move through the room again, graceful, quiet, invisible to everyone except him. And for the first time, he didn't see a waitress. He saw a woman with a story he wanted to know. A story he now realized he had insulted without knowing its weight. And he promised himself something right then. He wasn't leaving this restaurant until he understood exactly who Mia was. The longer Khalid watched Mia move around the restaurant, the more something unfamiliar settled in his chest, something he wasn't used to feeling. Respect, guilt, and a strange pull he couldn't explain. He wasn't a man who felt small easily. But tonight, this waitress made him feel exactly that. And he couldn't walk out without making it right. He waited until she finished another round of tables before lifting a hand, not arrogantly this time, but gently, like a man trying to fix something he broke. Mia approached, keeping her expression neutral. "Yes, sir. Can we talk?" he asked quietly. Not demanded, not ordered. Asked. Mia glanced around. The room was busy, customers waiting. "I need to work." He nodded. "Then I'll wait." His assistant blinked. "Sir, your meeting. Cancel it," Khalid said without taking his eyes off Mia. Even that made Mia pause. People never canceled important things for her. People barely noticed her unless they needed a refill. But she said nothing, just adjusted her apron and moved on. Khalid sat back and watched her carefully, and every minute that passed made him more aware of how differently she carried herself. She never rushed, never snapped, never showed hurt, even though he knew he caused some. Finally, when the rush slowed and her shoulders relaxed, Mia circled back toward him, not because she had to, but because she chose to. "Okay," she said softly. "You wanted to talk. I have 2 minutes." He gestured to the seat across from him. "Please, sit." She didn't. "I prefer standing." He nodded, accepting that. His voice softened. "Mia, when I said those things earlier, I wasn't talking about you." Her expression didn't change. Her voice stayed even and steady. "You looked right at me." "I know," he admitted. "I was frustrated, jet-lagged, hungry. The meeting I had before this went terribly. She lifted one hand, interrupting. "Sir, everyone has bad days. But bad days don't give you permission to treat people like they're beneath you." Khalid inhaled sharply. Her honesty hit him like a slap, but not a painful one. More like a correction he needed. "You're right," he said. "I behaved like someone I don't want to be." Mia studied him for a moment. Khalid continued softly. "Back home, people don't speak to me this way. They're afraid to. Or they want something from me." She tilted her head. "And what do you think I want from you?" His answer came instantly. "Nothing," he whispered. "You looked at me like I was just a man, not a billionaire." She blinked, something shifting in her eyes. "And that's rare," he added. Mia exhaled slowly and finally pulled out the chair opposite him, but didn't sit back. She sat at the edge, spine straight, hands lightly folded. "Why is it so hard for you to treat people normally?" she asked. He didn't get offended. He didn't get defensive. He looked tired, human, and strangely honest. "Because in my world," he said, "everyone is pretending all the time. Pretending to like me. Pretending to respect me. Pretending to understand me. I got used to thinking people around me weren't real." Mia's voice softened just a little. "And you thought I was the same." He nodded. "Yes. But I wasn't." "No, you weren't," he said quietly. "You were the only real one in the room." For a moment, they just stared at each other, two people from opposite worlds, sitting in a tiny restaurant booth like equals. Then Mia asked the question he didn't expect. "Why Arabic?" Khalid blinked. "What? Why insult me in Arabic? Why not English?" He swallowed. "Because Arabic is the language I go to when I'm angry," he said truthfully. "When I'm stressed. When I forget to be the man people think I am." Mia leaned forward a little. "And what man do you want to be?" He opened his mouth. No sound came. She nodded slightly. "That's what I thought." Khalid exhaled roughly, embarrassed by how right she was. Then she surprised him again. "You didn't know I understood you," she said gently. "You assumed because of my apron, my job, my face, that I wouldn't know your world. But you don't know mine either." "What is your world?" he whispered. Mia looked away, not shy, but cautious. A girl who had learned not to reveal too much too quickly. "Complicated," she said simply. Khalid waited. But she didn't say more. Instead, she stood up. "I need to get back to work." He rose too quickly. "Mia." She held up a hand. Sir, I accepted your apology. But that's all this is. An apology. He nodded slowly. I understand. She took a step away, but paused when he said, voice low, almost unsure. May I come back tomorrow to talk again? She turned, studying his face, the sincerity in his eyes, the softness he wasn't used to showing. Mia didn't smile, but she didn't say no. That's your choice, she whispered. But if you do return, don't speak to me like I don't exist. He swallowed. I won't. She walked away then, back to her tables, back to her world, back to being the quiet server everyone overlooked except the one man she least expected. Khalid sank back into his seat, exhaling deeply. Sir, the assistant asked. Should we go? Khalid shook his head slowly, eyes still lingering on the path she walked. No, he said. Not yet. Because for the first time in a long time, someone made him want to stay, and he didn't even know her story yet. The restaurant lights dimmed as closing time approached. Tables emptied, chairs scraped, and the noise slowly faded into a quiet hum. But Khalid stayed exactly where he was. Elbows on the table, fingers laced, eyes following every step Mia took as she cleared the last few plates. He wasn't analyzing her anymore. He wasn't trying to impress her. He wasn't even thinking about the insult that had started it all. He was simply watching her. A girl who moved with quiet strength, who treated every customer with the same gentle respect he wasn't used to seeing in the world he came from. Mia didn't look in his direction again. Not once. But when she slipped off her apron and tied it on the counter, something inside him shifted. He stood. Not loudly. Not arrogantly. Just enough to show he wasn't leaving this night unfinished. Mia grabbed her worn jacket from the hook by the wall. The kind of jacket that held years of struggle stitched into its seams. She didn't rush. Didn't pretend. Didn't act like she was anything other than a girl finishing a long, exhausting shift. Khalid stepped forward. Mia. She paused, but didn't turn fully. Yes. Her tone wasn't cold. It was guarded. He closed the distance slowly, careful not to crowd her. I want to say one last thing. I think tonight had enough words, she replied softly. Then I'll keep it short. She looked at him finally, head slightly tilted, eyes a little tired, expression unreadable. Khalid swallowed, choosing honesty over pride. When I spoke earlier, I saw a waitress. She raised an eyebrow, not impressed. He continued, voice lower. But when you answered me, I saw a woman who has lived more life than someone my money can ever buy wisdom from. That made her blink. Just once. Khalid added, you didn't embarrass me tonight. You taught me. Mia crossed her arms gently. And what exactly did I teach you? That respect doesn't depend on language, he said. Or money. Or status. Only character. Mia's lips parted slightly. Not a smile. Not yet. But a shift. A softening. And your character? She asked quietly. He didn't avoid the blow. Work in progress, he whispered. Silence lingered between them. Not tense, but deep. The kind of silence where truths settle. Mia finally exhaled, looking at the floor for a moment, then back at him. You know, she said, voice softer than she intended. I didn't speak Arabic for years. Not because I forgot it, but because it reminded me of a place I left behind. Khalid's eyebrows pulled together. You lived in Jordan. Why did you leave? Mia shrugged lightly. Life changes. People change. Sometimes you run. Sometimes you lose things you can't get back. Something unspoken flickered in her eyes, sadness mixed with memory. Khalid didn't push her. He understood the weight of what wasn't said. And you? She asked, surprising him. Why are you here? You clearly don't like this country much. He breathed out slowly. My father passed, he said quietly, and left behind business here. Responsibilities. A lot of unfinished things. And you're finishing them? I'm trying, he whispered. But some things are harder to handle than money. Mia nodded once. Grief doesn't care about bank accounts. Khalid's breath caught. No one spoke to him like that. No one talked to him like he was human, not a brand. He took a small step closer. Mia, may I ask you something? She hesitated. Depends. Can I see you again? Mia froze. Her fingers tightened around her jacket. Not in fear, but in a way someone reacts when life throws them something unexpected. Something unbelievable. Khalid, she whispered, almost warning him. I'm not asking for anything you don't want to give, he said quickly, gently. Just a conversation. A beginning. If you'll allow it. She looked at him, really looked. Past the suit, past the money, past the arrogance he'd shed in front of her. She saw a man trying to be better, trying to be seen for something other than his wealth. And something in her heart, something long ignored, stirred. But Mia didn't answer with words at first. Instead, she spoke in Arabic. Not sharp, not defensive, soft. Sanara, Matha Yudith. We'll see what happens. Khalid's chest tightened. Her first words to him in Arabic were strength. These words were something else entirely. A door slightly open. He smiled, genuinely this time. Then I'll come back tomorrow. She didn't smile back, but her eyes softened, and that was more than enough. Good night, sir, she said. Good night, Mia. She walked past him toward the exit. And just before she pushed the door open, she paused, fingers resting on the metal handle, body still in the warm restaurant glow. Without turning around, she whispered, and next time, don't call me girl. Khalid smiled. I won't. Mia stepped out into the night. A cold breeze swept through her hair, carrying a quiet truth. Sometimes the people who underestimate you end up needing you the most. Khalid stood in the doorway, watching her fade into the darkness, a waitress who changed him with only a few words. And he knew something deep in his chest. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a story neither of them saw coming. If this story touched your heart, share it. Because kindness doesn't always wear a smile, and heroes don't always wear uniforms. Sometimes, they walk in covered in dust, carrying stories that could change your heart forever.